Welcome to Whiskey Nightcaps. I am your host, Jason Davis, and today we're talking about finished whiskey. What is this thing? But before we get into it, please make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and hit the like button because the algorithms are hating on your boy. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so before we can discuss what a finished whiskey is, we must first discuss how whiskey is matured. So you cannot just distill grains, put them in a bottle and call them whiskey. No, that is moonshine, that is white dog, all right, that is white lightning. In order for that distillate to become whiskey, it must first be aged or matured in wooden barrels for a period of time. Now I could do a whole nother video on what type of wooden barrels have to be used for specific types of whiskey and the amount of time that they have to be aged in order to receive that name. But we're not doing that today. We're strictly talking about finished whiskey. Once that particular whiskey has reached its period of maturation, whether it be 2 years or 4 years for a bottled in bond or whatever so have you, producers of that particular whiskey will empty that barrel, not into bottles, but into another barrel, one that used to previously house some other type of alcoholic beverage, whether it be a wine, a beer, or some other type of spirit. This lasts for a period of about 1 to 3 months just to impart some of the flavors from that particular alcoholic beverage into the whiskey. So you don't want to leave it in too long because then those flavors may become dominant and just drown out what we know and love about that particular whiskey. If you put whiskey into a previously used barrel from the beginning and you let it age for 10 years, that's not a finished whiskey. On the label it will say matured in wine cask versus it saying finished in a wine cask. After centuries of distilling different types of whiskeys and so many different distilleries coming into the fray, these whiskeys have produce dominant flavors that they've become known for, right? When you think of a bourbon, there's something that comes to mind. When you think of a scotch, there's something that comes to mind. When you think of Irish whiskey, there's something that comes to mind. And with all of these distilleries, there's less and less variation in some of the taste from one brand to another. If you were to do a blind right now with 10 types of bourbon, it'll be difficult for you to tell how many different brands were used in those 10 glasses. And that's where finishing comes in and makes things more interesting because it puts different spins on classic whiskeys that we know and love. Now, I can't go into the different types of barrels that have already been used and the flavors that they impart on the whiskeys. It would take too long. So I have put a link in the description of this video to an article, not written by me, but somebody else, that tells you, hey, if you put whiskey into a Sauterne wine barrel, here's the type of influence that it's going to have on that whiskey. Or if you put it in a stout barrel, here's the influence that it's going to have on that type of whiskey. Though some of the major players have gotten into finishing whiskey, you predominantly see this from startup or craft distilleries, especially ones that are sourcing whiskey from another distillery. MGP, that giant that we all know about from Indiana that a lot of the brands on the shelf purchase their whiskey from, has I would say, a flavor profile that is somewhat distinct. And so if I'm sourcing a whiskey and you're sourcing a whiskey from the same exact distillery, the only way that we can differentiate our two brands is to finish that whiskey in some other type of barrel to give it a different flavor profile from the one that we originally purchased. Now, I brought along 2 whiskeys that I have that have been finished, okay? So we have Jameson Irish whiskey finished in stout barrels, and then we have Angel's Envy finished in Caribbean rum barrels. Now, these are 2 whiskeys that I wanted to showcase because one, they are available, widely available as far as I know, and two, the price point on them is not that bad. Finishing the Jameson Irish whiskey in the stout barrel gives it a very creamy type of texture and taste. It doesn't taste as potent as a stout, but it does lend a very different and pleasing variation on this Irish whiskey, this typical Irish whiskey. It is something I drink from time to time. I cannot drink it every day because the taste just becomes too much after a while. But Jameson has an entire line of finished whiskeys called Cask Mates. It runs about $30, $35, so it's not a bad deal. And if you don't like it, you really didn't break the bank from the first place, so you won't feel so bad about your purchase. Angel's Envy rye finished in Caribbean rum cask is not just one of my favorite finished whiskeys, but it's also one of my favorite whiskeys. Now, for a period, I really did not like ryes. The spiciness of it just really didn't play well with my palate. This was the first rye that really made me turn the corner, make a U-turn, skirt, and say, maybe this rye thing isn't so bad. Now, it being rested or finished in rum barrels gives it a very sweet, very vanilla-like characteristic. Think about it. Rum is distilled from pure sugar cane or molasses. So basically it's just sugar, which really livens up and puts a different spin on the rye than people are typically used to. And so now I have a lot of other ryes in my collection that are not finished thanks to this particular whiskey here. So I hope that I did clear this up for you, that I helped some of you who are new to whiskey understand what a finished whiskey is and how fun it can be to experiment with all of the different types that give you these different variations on these classic whiskeys that we love. You go out, you purchase one, you come back, you tell me in the comments what's your favorite one. If you already are into finished whiskeys, please tell me which one is your favorite finished whiskey, or if you have these and you don't like them, let me know that too. Again, I want to thank everybody for just showing their support. Shout out to Whiskey Pop, the Bourbon Judge, and everybody else that is showing support for the channel. Please, like I said, subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell so that when these videos come out, you get notified, because otherwise, the YouTube algorithm gods will strike me down. They will smite me. All right, I'll see you guys on the next go around. Peace.